Hello. I'm excited to chat with you all. I look at like doing webinars where like I'm so used to just talking to people and doing like being back and forth, but I'm actually very excited about this one because it feels like a blend between everything I've ever loved, and that has worked for me and that has grown my brand, which is storytelling, kind of modernized for the shifts that have affected how we use social media to land clients, which honestly, now that I've made the shift in my business, it feels like everything I ever wanted. It feels like everything that made me just dislike showing up. So I'm so excited. I think it's just a blend of things that are close to my heart and then feeling like I'm making this shift that we're all going to be making. And it's kind of like the answer to a lot of the things that my clients and I have just been feeling about, like showing up and feeling like you only can show one side of yourself, or you need to make every post sell your offer, or if you stop posting, your clients stop coming. So I actually now feel like so excited. I haven't had so much fun with creating content. I haven't grown this quickly. So there's just so much here that I'm really excited to share with all of you today. So let me see, chat, just checking in on here. So, with that being said, let's get started, and my team will just let folks in as they arrive. We did a little bit of testing out, so you all are gonna see my desktop, which is how my brain thinks. Can you all see? I'm here. Okay, so I'm gonna present. All right, let me know. Betsy, can we see? All good? Okay.
All good.
All right, welcome everybody. So we're going to talk about how to create daily conversations with our audience, weekly leads, and monthly high ticket sales through story selling. Before we get started, I wanted to ask you all a question just to kind of do a temperature check on which one or ones of these feels like you might be sitting in it right now. This also just helps me to kind of gear maybe as I'm going through the training to be like, oh, and this will help with this, or oh, and this is part of this. So my team's just gonna have a look at what the responses are, and I'll just kind of keep it geared towards this. So drop in, it could be more than one letter. So really posting consistently, but clients still feel unpredictable, really is just like I am posting, but I'm not quite sure like which posts contribute to sales, or when you're planning content, you're just like, am I selling in all of them? Like, how do I even plan content? So I think that is part of it. The other, and a lot of people, depending on what programs you've come from, have the feeling of like every single post has to sell your offer. Um, or if you're in category C, you're kind of like on and off again with social, which to be honest, I'm been in that camp and it's really hard to come back when you're there. And then the others is just, yeah, kind of like, okay, am I explaining it correctly? Does this make sense? So drop letters in the chat. And this will just help me kind of keep our conversation geared. Yeah, C and D, B and C seasonally. Yeah, for sure. C, there's a lot of C's. I feel you guys so much. You guys, like, I honestly feel like I will have these hermit seasons, and the next thing on the feed feels like it weighs 1,000 pounds, and like I can't get myself to do it. And a lot of the times what I'm realizing now that I'm like looking back at, I've been posting for 7 years now, with clients for a little over 6 years. And there were years where I felt like I could say whatever I want. I could just show up and it just felt like a safe place. And then I feel like I learned things, I internalized things, I started to stop doing the things that worked for me. And so I was just like, why was there a time where this felt so easy and it worked and then it stopped working? I felt like I had this like feeling of somebody was shoving me onto a stage and I was like, I don't I don't know. Like, wait, am I ready to go on this stage? Like that's a lot of the times like what it feels like to be in letter C. So, um why is it not letting me just, okay, I'm clicking here. So here's what we're going to cover. Why posting consistently feels unpredictable. There actually is a structure. There is a content structure, and I'm going to share it with you, around not just landing clients, but creating leads from social media. And I'm going to talk to you about what that looks like. the three strategies. So like three main things that we all need to be doing in order to make this shift. And then the role of social media versus email in our content system. So by the end of this, you're going to know like, okay, what's the job that social media has? What's the job that email has? If you are on Instagram and you use stories, what's the job of stories? And just understanding how all the pieces fit together to support you. And at the end, I'm going to show you what all of this looks like inside of category of one, and that's where we can answer questions live. So, who this training is for: coaches, consultants, or service providers doing high ticket work. I've been asked like, what is high ticket? And I was like, really, it's about like 3K and above. If you sell retainers, that's high ticket because that could be like an $18,000 client in the year, right? So if you have an offer that's around 3K and above, that's typically high ticket. In the coaching world, anything under 3K, a lot of the times is group programs. And so if you're working with a client one-on-one, it tends to be around that area or that range. You care deeply about your clients. I've worked with so many people who like if they've been working with clients, their clients love them, they get referred. And then when we look at their client results, I'm like, where is this? Like, this is amazing. Like, where? And they just don't know how to talk about it because all of us are very weird about like talking about the things that we do without it like taking credit or something. And so like a lot of the times, like we're all sitting on these hidden gems. So that's why translating that expertise feels very like hit or miss, especially with brand new people, because brand new people experience our content very differently from people who know us. And that's part of the big shift is that when we cannot assume a captive audience, it changes things. So a little about me. I'm Mariella. I'm the eldest daughter. I relate so much with just content and it feeling like a hard place to show up sometimes because I am a recovering perfectionist. I am through and through a high achiever. I am an Enneagram 3 hard, like Enneagram 8 with a 3 wing. And I have ADHD, late diagnosed like 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, and explains so much about my life. I am a single mom. My daughter is 9. She is so fashionable. I don't know where she gets it because I was never that fashionable person, but she's just so cool and I want to be like her one day. And I've been a professional marketer since 2004, which is very important because I would like to think that I can deliver these shifts with like, hey, the world's always going to change. It's okay. Like stuff changes. I have been there through many shifts. I have been there through marketing before there was social media, marketing before there were smartphones, marketing now with social media being a little less social and being a little more interest media. It's fine. We're going to adapt as long as we're in business. It doesn't need to be a scary thing. And my clients have generated 8 million in client revenue, mostly women of color clients. So don't let anybody tell you that you can't sell to women of color and have a thriving business. And women of color just we have the biggest hearts. We work really, really hard, but I love all of my clients. We all are just people who really, really care deeply about our work. And I built $1 million business organically. So that being said, they're, like I said, high ticket, 3K and above. You can market on IG, LinkedIn, or TikTok. This is, even though I do go into depth on IG, it's only because IG has shifted a lot recently. So I have to speak IG specific language, but I have clients who market on LinkedIn. So the system still is okay. It's just that some of the stuff you may not need to worry about in terms of algorithm, but like LinkedIn is also shifting, and I'll talk to you about why all of them are shifting, and there's a business reason for all of that. And you want to sign consistent clients from content without living on social media, and you want to stop overthinking and actually have fun with content again. And yes, you can have fun on LinkedIn. People talk about how you can't do that on LinkedIn. It's professional. I was like, people are bored to tears on LinkedIn because everybody thinks that they can only talk about their jobs. I came from corporate, so I came from like the most serious side. They're rewarding creators now, like they want people to create on LinkedIn and create human content. What works for humans like works everywhere. It's just that the platform is a little bit of a shift. So this works for all platforms. So it might feel like an on again, off again X, and you want it to feel more like a secure relationship. And when you stop posting to social, your sales stop. That's very scary, especially if you're going through a time in your life where you're just like, oh my God, how am I going to land clients? Like I haven't posted, and so I haven't landed clients because you don't have a system. It might also be that when people reach out, they're like, oh yeah, I've been following you for a year or two, which is fine, but we also kind of want to look at like, how can we accelerate that process. You may find that your audience growth, like your followers, have slowed or stalled or even shrunk. I know lots of people who have less followers now than they used to because they're selling in their content more and their content's just not growing, which means you're not reaching new people, which means you're not generating new leads. So this is why we have to shift. So we all want to feel like we can be ourselves on our feed and be like tell our stories and just be who we are, but also land clients. So you might feel like you're running everything through a fine tooth comb. Is this going to sell? You might get referred, but brand new people are a little hit or miss. That's a very common thing of how you know that's generally like messaging. You might always be tweaking your messaging. This is also one too. If you are ever at an event and someone's like, "Oh, what do you do?" and you have a hard time kind of explaining it, like that's also something we're going to talk about because this is also down to messaging. You'd stumble over your words if somebody asked you about your offer and they were like, "Wait, but could you explain that again? Like, what do you mean?" So the reason that content alone doesn't work anymore is because social media has changed, and not just Instagram, because social media platforms are businesses. They are business models. It is their job to make money. So they either make money through paid ads or they make money through how long people stay on the platform, because the longer someone stays on a platform, the more they can charge in ads, because company comes in and says, I want to pay $10,000 for visibility, and they need to show better engagement, people coming back. So like it's their job to keep people on. And how do they keep people on? By promoting content that people are interested in, which is why our feeds are not full of our friends and people we follow. Because to be honest, if we did and we just saw all the random people's content that we follow, we'd probably not stay on very much, because what keeps you on is typically a lot of the stuff of people that you don't follow. So algorithms prioritize interest, not followers. It keeps them on. They make more money that way. This is the reason why, for me, everything always makes sense if you put a business lens. So if you understand it's everything's just a business, they're trying to get paid by you creating content that keeps people on, and we're trying to get paid too. So this is how we're meeting the two. So this is what we're going to talk about. So what this means though is that a lot of your content is either shown to brand new people, like people who don't follow you, or it's not being shown to very many people at all. Like you might post something, especially nowadays, if you post a photo and a caption and no words, like that's almost like you may as well not even post. Like a photo and caption, like we have to shift the way that we post now. This is for Instagram specifically. So it's like we have to shift how we post so that our content gets seen. And we have to consider, would this make sense to someone who doesn't follow me, but could potentially be an ideal client? So with that being said, you do need a system instead now more than ever. So we're going to talk more about what the system looks like. It's story as the magnet always. This is where I was talking about how story was always the thing. That story works universally because it appeals to humans and how they absorb information and how they make emotional connection, but it's more important now in an AI era. It's more important in a noisy online space era. Then we'll talk about what all of this looks like together, of how you turn your content into leads, into clients. And this is kind of the pathway. Each part does a different job, but we'll talk more about that. So the reason that I created the system was, for about the first 4 years, I only really posted on IG. And to be honest, I posted probably like 3 to 4 times a month on the feed. And then the rest of the time I was on stories, kind of yapping and talking about anything. And I don't know, that's not really true. I was selling my offer, but it just was, that's all I had. And I grew my email list through different lead magnets, but I didn't really email them. So I was kind of one of those people who would promote something for like a month and then peace out. And like, I just posted on IG because it worked. And a lot of the times we don't change until we have to. So that was the case for me. And then what happened was, at the beginning of 2024, so literally 2 years ago, I was just off the back of like the biggest launch I ever had. And I was very scared that I was going to lose it all. I was very scared that that I was going to let everybody down, because I'm the eldest daughter and like letting people down is my worst nightmare. And so I think that, paired with just me having more clients than I had ever had, and I think my body also knew at the time, like if you didn't make money for the rest of the year, you would be okay. So I think it let me burn out, but not just from business. I think from life, from carrying it all, from being a single mom, from being like, I'm gonna die if I'm not productive. So I was in this for a year and a half, and I was so scared because this was the first time in my life where I couldn't push through. In my whole life, it didn't matter. I had gone through traumatic things and I would go to work the next day. And this was the first time that like I was sobbing in bed and I couldn't get out of bed. And I was just like, I don't want people to see my face. I don't. And I built this business where like, oh, Instagram stories, I'm just going to talk to my people. To all of a sudden, I was like, I don't want people to see my face. I don't want to show up. Like, but I need to make money. So what am I going to do? And so this was such a scary time. If you've ever been through burnout, no one tells you like how long it might last. I'm even estimating about 18 months, mostly because I feel like that's how long it took for me to, for my body to trust me again and for my creativity to come back. But it really showed me like how unsustainable that model was. I honestly thought I was gonna have to like move out of my house. I felt like I was living in an apartment and driving a car that somebody else got for me, and like I couldn't keep up this life. And it's just I don't ever want to be in that place again, but it really taught me like you need to change something because right now your business is not life proof. It's not depression proof. It's not burnout proof. It's not even child proof, to be honest. And so that's where I had to change things. So what I did, and I'll talk to you more about it, but one of the things that I did was like I started to just bring myself back into my feed, which was something that I had said for such a long time that I wanted to do, but I was like, but I can't because I kind of just want to post what I want. I just kind of want to be myself, but like this doesn't sell my offer. And then I started to study viral content. I started to study like why is it that I see some of my favorite creators never sell on their feed, but they're growing. They're posting content that I personally love. They're posting keywords. They're driving people to email lists. How is it that they have $1 million business and they're marketing in a way I want to market? So it's like instead of me telling myself I couldn't do it, I was like, who is doing it? And let me go show myself how I can do it too. So I started to study people's business models of how did they make money. And I started to just post more things. This has gone viral like multiple times. This was me and my daughter. This was us just watching like the Super Bowl and Benito and dancing, and I cried. I mean, I cry a lot, but that's like that. This is just my content, and it started to show me like this. I had never had posts like be seen by brand new people to the extent. And it started to show me like we have a bigger opportunity now to be shown to new people more than we ever have. So I started also turning my followers into leads using ManyChat. You don't need to use ManyChat. You can just drive people to an email list, but I did because I liked the idea of me saying comment a keyword and people join my list. So I started experimenting with different things. Some of them flopped, but it was fine. There's still people joined. So I had something called like Era. It was like a training. And then I did my story selling lead magnet at the end of last year, which pre-sold story selling as a concept for category of one. That was my strategy was do people want story selling before I go and create this program? I know that they need it, but will they buy it? And that's a difference. We know they need something, but will they buy it? So I tested it out with story selling, and I will tell you more about it, but it went so well. And so this is like what my inbox looks like. A lot of this was like it was my daughter's birthday. I was just like seeing all of the notifications come in, and I managed to have another six-figure launch last year in the middle of burnout. So I started to really shift how I use social instead of it doing the whole job. It was driving attention off. I also started posting connection content, which is like just human connection content instead of conversion content. So conversion is direct sale. I went viral multiple times. I started to grow my waitlist through different keywords. I was testing out demand for different topics through different keywords. So I kind of noticed like, oh, there's not a lot of an uptick here. Let me try this. Oh, let me pull a training out of my client portal. Oh, let me try this. And I just experimented with some stuff that you guys maybe like didn't even see because I was doing some of this in trial reels. So I really started to see like, oh, this word works, or oh, there's demand for this. So this is how I grew 3,500 followers in the last 2 months. This is how I launched CO1 without a sales page, without even posting on my feed during the launch, because I already had 95 leads through pre-selling the story selling lead magnet. And so those are people who are basically saying, yes, I'm interested in story selling. Then I opened the wait list. Half the people join the wait list, more than half the people who join the wait list join the program. So, and the whole time I was in open cart, I didn't even post on my feed because I was so stretched trying to get the program together that I was like, it's okay. I don't need to post on social. I already have leads. That's what I want for you guys too. So that's what we're going to walk through today. So the 3 shifts to make in 2026 to create Daily conversations, meaning people are talking to you, they are commenting, they're saying, thank you for this, I really appreciate this, or they're saying, oh, I downloaded this resource, I love it, it's so helpful. Just getting your people talking to you, and then turning them into leads, and then monthly high ticket sales from social. First strategy is selling with story to shortcut the buying process. This has always been the case, and it will always be the case till the end of time, because human psychology, this is not a trend. This is like what has always worked. It's just working more now because of how noisy the online space is, because there is not as much trust, and because there is a flurry of AI generated content that all sounds, even I train bots, so I know a lot more of what the possibilities are, but AI can't fake story. So our brains are starting to look for signs of life, right? So it's showing versus telling whenever possible. So if you even go back to your post where you're like explaining something, how can you show it instead of explain it? That will immediately resonate with people a lot more. It makes them feel something. It makes things make sense. So I always say, bring me to a moment. Give me an example. Be more specific. What do you mean by this? Bring me to the moment. What do you mean by this? So stories around why do you work with your specific client type? Why do you use the specific approach that you use versus a vanilla basic approach that someone else might use? Talk about what you believe, what do you value, what do you like, what do you believe in, what do you not, what do you disagree with, what hills will you die on? Like it's a dramatic statement, but it's those things do matter now. So and it also is something that in CO1 we start with story and then we integrate that into your offer so that your offer isn't just a separate empty vessel. A lot of the ways that offers are taught is like problem, solution, process, result, but the person is missing from there. So I'm like, anybody could teach that. So that's the problem is like anybody can say that, but where are you missing from that? So this is where we start with. So why it changes buying decisions, high ticket decisions, and I would say high ticket, especially if the person is working with you in particular, it's emotional before it's ever logical, which is why if you sell one-on-one, done for you, something where the person is interacting with you and you've tried to work on your offer and it feels like, what's my result? Like, I'm not sure. And you feel like you can only talk in problem, solution, result, and the result is kind of hard to talk about. If you have storytelling, you can have a not, I wouldn't want to say a bad offer. It doesn't matter as much because when you're showing versus telling, that's going to do a lot of that selling for you because it's basically answering like people are reading your content and they're going to feel like, does this person understand me? Do I trust them to influence my life? And that's huge, right? Like somebody letting you into their life and their business, in their relationship, in their health, like is a big deal, you know? So they our story answers these questions much faster than information. What happens with the logic and your offer is it kind of retroactively confirms how they feel, like confirmation bias. They will hear a story of yours, feel a certain way, feel like you get them. Then they're going to read more about maybe they'll do some digging, but it kind of confirms how they feel. But you can't do it the other way around. So that's what I found is I can for sure say I had unclear offers for years. I still into clients because of storytelling. I still would say messaging is important now, but this is also really important now. So logic just confirms how we feel. So this is just an example of how I use my story a lot in my posts. And this was one where I had the DM or comment era, and I just tell my story all the time. So a couple of stories that I don't know how many of you guys tell me in the chat if you did, but did anybody grab the story selling bundle where you have access to the sellable stories coach? Because the sellable stories coach GPT will extract your three main stories that you need to be telling in your content. And if not, let me know because I'll make sure you get the link for it. But this is all just examples of telling your story and you can never tell it too many times. So how you sell through story is that you have to identify three things. What is the unmet need in the market that you serve? How do you see and serve that need because of your story? So it's like, I understand you because, and then your skills, and I help you differently by. So, for example, if you think about being a leadership coach just as I have a lot of clients who are leadership and career coaches for women of color or for Latinas or something. So the unmet need might be that for a Latina, getting to leadership means unlearning a lot of the things that you were taught by your culture around working really, you have to work really hard in order to get ahead. So that might be unlearning hard work for like advancement, might be like an unmet need. And if someone else was teaching them that, they might bypass that and they may not understand your culture. They may not understand that. And then your story, how do you even know that that exists? How do you even know that that's a need in the first place? That's where you talk about your journey, how you were able to see it. And then in the skills and process, you say, so we have this process. We start with this. We help you uncover this. We help you uncover these things that are different that you do that someone else wouldn't do because they don't get this person the way that you do. So you really start to tell stories around like, this is why I have the business that I have. This is why I use this particular process. Showing versus telling. These are, sellable stories, but you really could tell any story in your business and people immediately clock it and they'll just make their own conclusion about how you help them differently. So you have to just tell these on repeat. You can never tell them too many times. And showing versus telling whenever possible is also story selling and marketing. And when people feel something, they are much more likely to become a client. And that's something that you can't manufacture with the best messaging. Like storytelling is really what does that. So how this looks, this happened with one of my clients who we got clear on her sellable. Oh no, actually this was for me. I was like, this wasn't one of my clients. This was one of my clients. I had somebody join Reclamation 2 rounds ago who found me on a podcast and I told my story there and she found me on IG, wasn't looking to join a mastermind, decided she wanted to join the mastermind, scheduled the sales call the next day, became a client. That stuff happens like a lot more often than you think. And that's the reason why you can shortcut the sales process through story. So this isn't even like you have to build this whole system. Starting to effectively tell story or tell your story in your marketing can get people off the fence. Or someone could come into your account, find it, hear that story, and just be like, I want to work with this person, and they don't even need to like watch all of your content. So 10K investment from one day to the next. This actually happened through the Sellable Stories coach. So a Sellable Stories process. So I worked with someone who had been in business for many years. She was doing a great job, problem awareness, was landing clients, but was feeling almost like she was missing from her content. And when we looked at her applications, 75% of her applications said, I chose to work with you because, and it had something to do with story. So if you're not asking the question, like, why did you choose to work with me specifically? You should definitely ask that question because that's really good data. But we couldn't find her story. So immediately when I look at, if your applications say people are choosing you for a specific reason, but when I look at your front-facing content, it's not evident there, that's where I'm like, okay, like let's start to make a shift. And most of the time, if you're doing proximity work with your clients, most of the time their answer isn't just, oh, you're really good at this. I read your testimonials. Your education is great. They're going to say something about your story, which is why when you're not doing it, you're kind of missing out on like the majority of the reasons why people emotionally say yes. So after 2 days of posting sellable stories, she had a longtime follower reach out, become a client 5 days later. So it doesn't always have to take a long time. You don't always have to get your messaging perfect and like change the whole way that you market. It just means showing versus telling more often in your posts because that gets them off the fence. So how are you guys doing? I'm just going to check chats really quick. Okay. Fancy, can you drop the link to the Sellable Stories bundle in the chat for the people who haven't, who weren't able to grab that? Because you're basically taking the beginning part of category of one because we have it in the program. So, I mean, it's improved from when I launched it originally. So the second strategy is social media now, really, we primarily use it for generating leads. So it's what's kind of called ABC content. So attention content, building content, and conversion content. Attention content is not sales content. It's just human, relatable moments. It's something that people want to comment on, something people want to repost, things that people want to share to their stories. That's what makes things go viral. it starts on an explore page, but it stays viral because people are sharing it. So this was not selling my offer. It was just funny. It was a trend that I saw. I do this with a lot of my attention content. I just go to Reels and I look at what's already on there because if it's on the Reels tab, it's probably already like attention content. And then I just put my own spin on it. Building is building trust. So building trust and positions your expertise. So this is where this is like educating. These 5 habits took me from X to Y. Conversion is where you are going more specific and you are actually saying, here's my process. Here's what happened with this client, and you're walking them through. They all can be on your feed, but when most of your content is conversion content, that's where your followers drop, your visibility drops because brand new people aren't ready to hear that. And it also does not get pushed out. So this is the reason why we want all 3, but we don't want what we were kind of taught before and maybe what worked before when we had a captive audience was you could have most of your feed be direct sales. Now what we want to do around building is start to get people onto your email list with some sort of free resource. And then in your emails is where you're more heavily doing conversion content. So this is why, and that's because it's not social media now, it's interest media. So it kind of kills our visibility and our followers and our sales because even your current followers aren't seeing your posts. So that's the reason why we can't even rely on our followers seeing our posts anymore. So about 50, 30, 20. And I would say if you're in the middle of a launch, it's fine. You could do more conversion content, but just in general, that's actually going to get you more consistent sales than trying to sell in every post. So you have probably been doing building and conversion like B and C, but what's missing is attention content. And in category of 1, we do this through the ABC method, so attention, building, conversion. And I drop weekly content prompts in that you just pick up the content prompts and you run with them. And they cover the full spectrum. So when we did this last round, we leaned heavily into storytelling and all these things. And now we're doing more sales content. But you don't even have to think about it. If you want to just come in and take a prompt, you can absolutely do that. So how to find your attention content categories. So before your next post, this is the easiest place to do it. You could go to the Reels tab and just take something that tends to be sometimes a little bit generic, but it works. You can just go to the Reels tab. You can look and see what content's on your feed that people are commenting and sharing about. But a lot of the times it's something that your community is already talking about. So where can you lend your perspective on something that your community is already talking about? That could be pop culture, entertainment, politics, any trends that you are seeing, things that you know your ideal audience is already talking about, taking that, doing a green screen, taking the reel, putting your own thing on top of it, like just sharing more about that because that also boosts your thought leadership. And that's also content that people share and it's going to get pushed out because if something is tagged as almost like a current event, basically, and you then create your own lens to it, it then gets pushed out as well. And I would say that asking the question, even if you didn't base it on that and you just think, if I created content that wasn't for me, but it was for them, what content would you create for them? What content would you create for your people that they would want to share or repost because they feel seen and they say me too? So that's another way to create content. And these are the things that are the most human as well. And this is also why selling in every post stalls your growth. Even this is something like literally the first post was something that I did in my last launch. So like I tried it. It's like I really tried to go this route and eventually I was like, yeah, this does not work and I hate how this feels. So we really just want to start to shift even the way that we sell. So even when you're selling, I wouldn't do this anymore. Like a case study. I would instead tell a story like the way that I did right here, right? Because people still want to. So even in selling, we're still telling stories. The next slide after this, I talked about a specific client and we walked through what she was struggling with, what did we do in our work together, and what the outcome was, better than like client testimonials because people have to figure out what do you mean with the client testimonial, like it's giving them too much work. We want to try to tell everything through the lens of story, but if you're not also doing attention content, it starts to still tank your visibility, which is why the fun, human, relatable, shareable content is still such an essential part of your content strategy. So ABC, attention brings people in, building earns trust, conversion works better because of both. I like to think that when you're selling in every post, it's like throwing a party and not sending invitations and just relying on who already knows you to tell other people. And that's kind of what happens when you stop putting it out there. Like attention content is like sending out little recruiters and then they bring people in. It's like literally like you're bringing people in. Is everyone an ideal client? No, that's impossible, even if you paid for ads. But this is free, which is why either you pay for visibility or you learn how to get it for free. And I want all of us to develop the skill of evolving how do we get it for free? Otherwise, we have to pay these platforms, right? So, this is also how my client Jessica in category of one went viral. And she's now also getting way higher views on all of her content. So it also kind of activates. So she went viral on one, but after that, she's noticing she's getting like triple and above views on her reel. So it's like reviving your account, which is also why it's important. So this I know is Instagram specific, but this would also translate to LinkedIn because if you're hard selling in every post, again, that's still going to affect engagement. So steps towards more visibility. In category of one, we break it down like this. And if you download the story selling bundle, it alludes to this a little bit, but all of my content and all my clients' content falls into these categories. There's storytelling, thought leadership, education, process, meaning like, here's the process, here's how I help you, here's what we do, like actually showing them the behind the scenes, and social proof. So that's like my client did this. Here's what we did together. Here was the outcome, right? So ABC is like the intention, like what's the job? Attention, its job is attention, its job is building trust, or its job is converting. And then steps is almost like the topics. So we do that together in CO1. And it's funny, Jessica Lynn just joined us too. So this is about her. So, oh, actually, hold on. Let me let her in. So my client Jessica Lynn in category of one, I had dropped a prompt around the Super Bowl and I was like, hey, this is going to be a big topic people are talking about. I would talk about how it made you feel. I would talk about what your lens is. Just whatever you want to say about it. Several people did and they got way more views and engagement than they normally do. But Jessica noticed that even though her reach was like around 300 views, she was posting, problem awareness. She was posting podcast clips and sales content, which is actually what a lot of us do, to be fair. And so she shared her perspective on Bad Bunny performing at the Super Bowl. And the post is still viral a month later. She grew by like, I lost count. I asked her a while back, it's like 350 followers. It's at 882,000 views. And we were all just talking about how like, this doesn't even feel like this should be like it's almost like too fun, like too good to be true. And granted, does this directly sell? No, it doesn't. But who who has Bad Bunny on their feed? A lot of like the Latino community. So if you are serving a certain community and that community is talking about something and you lend your perspective on a conversation your community is already having, that is direct access. Like that's more likely that they are going to find you. And this is why this works. And this is why I say attention content is fun, it's fulfilling, it's human, and it's like a growth engine. It brings people to you and it's all around you. So strategy three, this is the third one. So one was selling through story. Two is the 50-30-20 strategy, which is like more attention content. So more of your content should just be like shareable content. Strategy three is turning your followers into leads. Then this is really important because your followers aren't seeing your posts the way that they used to, and that's not going to change. It's only going to go more in that direction. So we have to start taking online attention and taking it offline. The goal is to turn it into leads, but not just by saying join my email list, because join my email list does not create an experience for them. It doesn't necessarily build trust. They just get dropped into whatever email you happen to be sending, which is why this process is so important, because attention doesn't grow a business. Going viral does not grow a business, but leads do. So if social media is where we get attention, email is where the attention becomes a lead. This is why you see comment keyword everywhere. And there is a business reason, because they are using social media to generate leads. And then the sales conversations are more so happening in depth in a less noisy place, which is in your email. And so that way you're not having to be everywhere, duplicate all of your content across every platform. But the good news is that most high ticket sales happen partially through email. I have so many objections that I've heard about, like my people don't buy on email, but almost any time they look, their clients are already on their email list. So that may not have been the number one reason, but they are always looking to get closer to you and you need to give them that opportunity. So most of the time before someone buys from you, they will get on your email list if you promote it. If you have a podcast, they'll listen to it. So this is why this is so important. And email gives you a way to deepen that trust in a less noisy environment. So a lead magnet should not just grow your list. So I want you to think about, and we're going to talk about how to think about this, but if you could make an impression on your people with a free resource, they are going to come pre-sold on working with you. So part of what we do in CO1 is I think, what is something that your people are struggling with, something that you help clients with at the very beginning? What's a burning question that they have? What's something that you can go and help them with and help them get a small result so that this feels like a free introductory offer, not a freebie, not just like random stuff they could have ChatGPT'd. And they convert better into clients because they are pre-selling them on your method and on you. And you all have this. This is like something you probably are already helping your clients with, but you would just release it in a mini version, not trying to do too much, not trying to replace you, just the littlest bit of clarity that goes such a long way. And I could tell you, when I looked back at my lead magnets that I'd done over the years, there were lead magnets where I looked at who subscribed and then I counted up, oh, this person was a one-on-one client. This person joined reclamation. This person was a client. And they were like 6 figures worth of sales from like a single lead magnet that I kind of half-assed promoted. So like, we don't think that email matters, but then when we look back, the little breadcrumbs will show you that they tried to get on our email list, right? So this is what happened with CO1, 95 leads in 30 days, and I oversold the launch. So I went from this selling with these Canva posts, and now I'm doing more storytelling. Instead, you'll see me say grabbing my exact system, comment story sell to get my bundle. And then this is what I put out, and people were DMing me. They were commenting the keyword. And then in that, it's introducing them to the concept of story selling. So they could either be about it or not. Either way is fine, but I wanted to put something out that felt like I was giving something away for free, because that's very easy to sell on your worst day. If you don't feel good, on my days that I feel depressed, overwhelmed, my daughter's at home sick, I can at least show up on stories and be like, hey, don't forget, I have this free resource. It's going to help you with this. And just getting people from social media onto your list, knowing that they're going to get that resource and they're going to get a few emails afterwards, and that person's going to become a lead. And we all should have that in our business. That's a system. Any 7-figure big business, they all have this. So we need to start with just our version of this right now. You don't need to have a 20 email funnel. Like, just having 4 or 5 emails is enough. And I help you do this in CO1. So the result when I did this with the story selling bundle was 95 new leads in 4 weeks. I then said, if you liked this and this was helpful, I now have a program coming out that's going to take this further over the next 6 weeks. If you are interested in this program, join this interest list. So it was a direct like sales CTA. Like, are you interested in this program? 25 people joined, and 14 people out of the 25 joined CO1. And during that time, I wasn't even posting on the feed, because at that point I was like, hey, there's people who are interested in the program. I need to build the program out. I need to switch gears. So like, this changed my life. I was like, I will never, ever go back to selling the way that I used to, and like just posting on social media and giving it every single job to do in my business. And it worked because people were pre-sold on story selling before the launch. So to recap, the 3 strategies that anybody who markets on social media needs to already start to make these shifts. You're surrounded by it already if you look, because it is there. And maybe not everyone does selling through stories. That's definitely my approach, but this is what I found. Selling through stories to show versus tell, to build trust quickly and boost your visibility. If you can show versus tell more often, if you can start to talk about why you built your brand, why do you create content, why do you have this business, why do you serve this particular client, why do you use a particular method that someone else might not, starting to do that. Number 2, using social media for lead generation, not the entire process. So starting to take that attention offline strategically. and drive followers to your email where they actually become leads through a lead magnet that pre-sells your offer and builds trust. So this is all what I help my clients do is really extract it. This is why we get clear on your offer first, then your lead magnet, because your offer will give away what is the thing that your lead magnet needs to be. It's already there and the GPTs will help you pull it out. It's like talking to an agent and it will help you figure it out. But when they work together, that's when it becomes a client generating system. So this is like where you'll see the creators who all their content feels like it's thought leadership, it's fun, it's storytelling, but they are driving people to an email list and you never see them directly selling. I think we should still directly sell. That's not an issue. It's just, it shouldn't be your entire feed. And this is what's going to help you adapt. And I promise you it's more fun. When this system is working, when you go on social media, this is what it's like for me now. You have new followers, your content is being shared. You will see the little, the little circle saying 26 mentions, like, or whatever. You'll have comments of people mentioning your comments. People will be commenting the keyword if you're using the automated system. They're grabbing your free resource. Like, there's just activity. I've stopped trying to keep up with comments at this point. Like, it's wild now. It's been like months of every single time I go on IG, there's more people following, more people commenting, and I'm just like, it feels good to create content like this. And having people in my DMs, and I've never had this many conversations before. So what happens with this is that lurkers start to get off the fence. People who have been wanting to work with you, they start to reach out, they start to ask you questions. So if it's felt really quiet, for me, it's really hard to market when no one's talking to me. So it's like stories also make people reach out, because if you're selling your offer, there's nothing to really say a lot of the times. But if you're telling stories, the people who want to work with you will find reasons to reach out and start talking to you. And then they're more likely to become clients because you're already in conversation. And then every post no longer feels like it has to do everything, because it's actually not supposed to. And then leads start to join your list consistently. So you're getting those notifications saying such and such, this person joined your email list. And this doesn't require you to post more. You're literally just changing what you're posting and you're giving your content a job and you're taking those conversations offline. So that is how it works. I hope that this is something that you think about. What is one thing? So I actually want to pause here and say, drop in the chat, what is one thing that you think that you could do that you want to start shifting first, or something that was a takeaway for you? And I can kind of make a note here if there's like starting to be questions. My team is going to take a note of questions because I'm going to answer them at the end, but I do want to start taking them before I move on to category of one, because I want to make sure that everybody here has something actionable that they can go and take away and implement, whether you join category of one or not. Because I want this to help you think about content differently, get excited about it, and feel like you have an actionable takeaway. So would love to hear your takeaways in the chat. Above training. Okay. A few minutes ago. Oh, was it the Anjali, was it the story selling? Because if so, fancy, have a look and see if there's anything. Okay. We may have paused it, I wonder. Yeah, have a look and see if we paused it. Hopefully not. Email later, have a free resource on my website. I don't have emails to follow and convert to other services. Okay, that is also very common too, of just like having a resource, but then the emails that follow is kind of like where the sale happens. And part of what I talk about in category of one is that depending on what the resource is, what you send to follow up is going to look different, because some lead magnets are where every email is part of the resource. So it's either an email series, it's an audio series, it's a something series. So the emails need to deliver that, or you're delivering the resource up front. And then what you're doing when you're following up is you're asking questions, you're helping them use it, you're reminding them that they downloaded it, you're sharing your stories, you're talking about your clients, you're all these things. So like the sales is where that happens. And that's so common for us to just put stuff out, but then the experience after, most of the time people are like, I don't know what to send. So that's something that we help you with. So category of one, it's a 6-month program for high ticket coaches, consultants, and service providers. You will double your leads and sales through story-led content by creating a system that looks like this. So story is always the magnet. We then infuse your story into your offer and your messaging so that your offer is not just something anybody could deliver. It's made for you and it sells. So we're going to look at what actually makes an offer sell. And this has been my job for many years as a marketer, not just a coach. Then implementing an ABC content system so that you aren't just hard selling, but you are growing, you're building trust, and you're driving leads offline. And then we have weekly prompts that help you with that. So you don't have to think about it if you don't want, or you can take the prompts and make them your own. We then drive them to a lead magnet that pre-sells your method and establishes you as an expert, builds that trust, and that's how they become leads, not just by inviting them to your list, and that's how they become clients. So when you go and you open up an offer, and you can have different lead magnets for different offers. If you have a group, if you have a done for you offer, if you have one-on-one, you can test out different ones, and then each of them can have a slightly different job, or they all can sell all your offers. It's totally fine. They all work, but it just has to be approached strategically. So what we build together is it does transform the way that you market and land clients on social media, because we can't do it the way that we did anymore. So essentially your content becomes almost like an engine of bringing new people in, building the relationship, inviting them to a resource, inviting them offline, and then building that relationship there. So where you're selling on social media, but not in every post, and then you're doing more of that depth in email. If you're on my email list now, you'll notice how I'm doing it, because on my feed, I'm not really, I would like to post more, but right now I'm doing most of my conversations on story and on email. And so you are taking online attention offline and turning them into leads. And we do this through a few things in CO1. So number one, you get clear on your sellable stories. So the link that we just dropped in the chat is basically step one of that. And I wanted to give you guys that so that you can kind of experience what that is like. Then we position your offer through your story so that your offer is something that nobody else could deliver but you. So that is very strong positioning. We start to uncover what your process is, all of that. So we get really clear on your messaging as well so that it resonates with brand new people, not just your fans and like people who follow you, right? Then you start to shift the way that you create content using our ABC growth content system. There's weekly prompts that you can follow. So you can just look and you'll start to think about it differently. So your content starts to get in front of new people. And then you also will create a lead magnet that pre-sells your offer and know how to think about it so you always can do this. So whether you have more than one offer, all of that, you're going to build it. You can submit everything to me. I give very in-depth feedback to people on their messaging, on their offers. I will explain why I'm giving the feedback that I'm giving you so that every single time you get sharper and you're able to see things before I even see them. And I also built out curriculum trained GPTs to help you workshop every step. Because if you are like me, there are some times where I'm like, I am done. If you just watch the video, watch a quick video, go into the GPT, you can do the whole thing. So you don't have to sit here with a worksheet and trying to figure it out unless you want to. Literally, I have trained all of these GPTs to basically be a curriculum coach. So building out your offer, refining your offer, seeing, getting feedback on it, building out your content plan, coming up with lead magnet ideas, drafting your email sequences, all of those things. It's everything that I teach in the program. The GPTs will help you build it out, which is why even if you're busy and you only have time in the evenings, it's still, you will be able to take full advantage of everything in the program. And then you can drop things into Circle, get coaching, be supported by the community. And this is what support looks like. So we have coaching calls every Tuesday morning. We have content co-working calls every other Monday. That way you can bring the prompts that I have sent over the last few weeks. I have a content planning worksheet. So we literally sit down and I'm like, take a prompt. What are you selling? Drop it in. If you need coaching, you can drop it in the chat while everybody is co-working. I will help and I will support you so that you walk away from those calls with ideas mapped out, and all the resources make that really easy. And then you also can drop things into Circle for feedback. We have a review form. So if you're just like, hey, could you have a look at my offer? Can you have a look at this? I review it and I get back to you with very detailed feedback Monday through Friday. And then 24/7, our little GPTs will help you with everything from even taking the prompts and turning them into content. I still would say I advise like writing your own content, but like the GPTs can kind of help you flesh it out. And then this way you don't have to like sit with a blank slate of trying to figure out how to implement the program. And what I have found, we're 5 weeks in, this group is so engaged. Like I get comments and reviews every single day. And I've also joined programs where there's a lot of people in the program and you barely see the same people showing up to the calls and posting. And that's because there's not high engagement. So I was really thinking, how can I make this program work for someone with a full-time job, for someone with a baby, for someone who is just super busy? Like, how could this program work for anyone? Because my brain is constantly overwhelmed. So I've made it super clear. There's not a billion videos to watch. There's a few, and I can show you. And then the GPTs help you. If you choose to use GPTs, you don't have to, but I made it so that you can if you want to. And I also included, there's a GPT that helps you prepare for sales calls, analyze sales calls, help you close more sales calls, everything. Like we have thought of all of those things. And if you enroll by Wednesday at midnight, I personally am going to write you 10 story angles that are a blend of extracting your thought leadership. These are basically your mic drop moments that you are sitting on right now. I'm going to ask you some questions based on the things you share with me. I'm going to extract those. Those are ones that you could use for email subject lines, for reels hooks, for carousels, for just mic drop moment statements of things that really position you either through your story or it's extracting like what you believe in your thought leadership. Those are things that make people remember you. So if you enroll by Wednesday, I will write these for you. So we're going to have a process to basically make your gems, your hidden gems, not hidden, and get people off the fence. The investment is $19.97 paid in full. You can do a 6-month payment plan of $350. We begin coaching on the 7th, but you're going to get access Monday the 30th, so you can dive into the curriculum. You can say hello, introduce yourself. You can get a head start by looking at the prompts that are already in the library. You can get a head start just period. And then I am back from spring break and coaching starting the first week of April. So this being said, quick questions that I have answered before. If you haven't landed any clients, it's fine. This can take you from zero. Only you're going to speed past the part of like making up an offer and not really being sure. I have a validation process for offers to make sure that like it's meeting a need in the market and that it's positioned clearly and that your messaging is clear to brand new people. If you're already making money or at 6 figures, we have multiple people in the program now who are at 6 figures. We have one person who's at 7 figures. They're using it more for like the lead magnet and the lead generation part. It's for all businesses. So this isn't like you have to be a beginner. It's for all income ranges and all levels of like established businesses. So if your audience is still small, this is also why you need it more, because now you have to learn like one post could actually like you could get hundreds of followers just from one post in like your ideal audience. So we need to know the skill of how do we grow our audience on purpose. And if your offer has changed, we have a lot of people who are like, I had this and then it kind of evolved to this. We'll stop that like back and forth swing and look at like, what does the offer actually need to be? What do you want to sell and what is there a need for? And we will marry up the two right there so that you're not like floating around, because sometimes what happens is people will change their offer because it's not selling, when in reality, they don't need to change their offer. They just need to change their messaging. And if you can't attend the live calls, almost everyone can, but even if you can't, it's made so that you can get everything that you need even without it, because you can still get coaching from me. You can still submit things for review, and the curriculum is made for you to be able to implement it with the GPTs on your own, all of that. So doors are officially open. Our team is dropping the link in. I'm going to pause and answer questions now. And I hope that this was helpful to all of you. I'm going to pause now and stop sharing so that I can see all of you. And oops, let me stop here. All right. Questions. Would love to hear your questions, whether it's something that you were holding on to. Fancy, let me know if you have a list. I can start with those as well, but in the meantime, feel free to like raise your hand or put the hand raise button, and then I can call on you, or if you prefer to ask it in the chat, you could do that too. It's also so good to just see the little squares. I'm not used to just like talking
Yeah.
at people. Uh-huh.
Right. So we had one by Daisy, but I know you did touch on it during the call. She says, creating an email lead. I have a free resource on my website, but don't have emails to follow and convert or offer other services.
Yes.
So,
So let me know.
Daisy,
Here. Daisy might have had to. Oh no, Daisy's here.
no.
Let me know if there's like what specific part of that I can chat that I can help you with. So I think it's like I said, it's really common for people to have resources and then stop promoting them or promote them, but then there isn't the email sequence on the back because a lot of the times we just don't know what to say. That's just so common. Um, but when you do have it, it's basically like your first funnel, and it's something that will always be able to bring leads into your business. So I think that if you have the resource, thinking of like, what is it that you would want them to know if you were onboarding them? I think about an email sequence like the same way if you were starting a new job and they onboard you. Like, what do they need to know? What do they want to, what do you want them to know about you? What do you want them to know about the work that you do? So just like putting an email sequence off the back of that. There's like a way that I teach it. But at a high level, that's, I would say, reviving that and starting to actively promote it because a lot of the times people don't join because we don't promote it. And so it really just has to be part of like our ecosystem. But let me know if you have like a specific question on like yours and kind of how you could use it to start to get ideal clients to join it.
Thanks, Anna. So as we wait on that, we also have one from Rosa. She
Okay.
says, how does it work when we do have different offers in terms of getting support on marketing them both? I'm trying to figure out how to sell two offers this year.
Yeah. I mean, I would, if the ideal client and the way that they buy is different enough, because Rosa, I know that you do B2B and you do B2C, that's a different buyer type. So if it's the same kind of buyer but like slightly different, I feel like you could use the same one. But if the is the difference like between B2B and B2C, like the orgs and then individual one-on-one leadership coaching clients, mm, then yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just yeah, they're like my B2C clients sometimes have bought my B2B.
Oh, like
Actually,
meaning they bring you into the company?
yeah, like my
Yeah.
coaching clients have brought me into the company quite a bit.
Hmm.
Um, and so I think that's what that I'm trying to, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
figure out how. And I'm like, and I think I have my own thoughts, like, am I
I
selling
think,
too much? Am I not selling enough?
oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, and I think that right now you're going to feel like you're selling until we have a way of getting people offline. It's always going to feel like, oh my God, I'm like selling too much. I mean, you can never can sell too much. I think it's just selling in the right place. So I think if you are doing one-on-one leadership coaching clients and then you're doing, and you just released the audit for
Hmm.
orgs.
Hmm.
So Rosa and I worked on her lead magnet, and
So helpful.
organizations buy very differently. So we were literally like, who is the person who you need to convince to get you in? And I'm like, and what are they shopping for? We literally get down to that psychology of like, we don't ever give them what we think they need because they're not going to use it. It's like giving somebody broccoli and they're like giving a kid broccoli and they're like, you need it, it's so healthy. And they're like, no, I don't want it. So I I would for your one-on-one clients like for sure have a different opt-in for them because they're shopping differently when they're thinking about themselves. And I know that sometimes they bring you into their org, but they're thinking differently. They're probably seeing your work and thinking, "Ooh, our team is having this struggle or we're having a transition or we're having whatever." But I think you having something that is very like Rosa branded for your one-on-one clients that could be part of your coaching process already, or something that feels like it's a burning question, like something that they are shopping for. You're either like scratching an itch, answering a burning question, you're taking part of your process, something. And I would have a separate one for them.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think, thank you. And I think I just was like curious about the support and like I guess it's me
Mhm.
asking for permission that you probably are
Mhm.
like, no, it's fine. But like it's okay that we're having two offers and needing support in terms of like how we can
Yeah.
market these two offers at the same time in many
Yeah.
ways. And I think
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure how to do it. And as you know, I'm on LinkedIn more
Yeah.
and I have all these thoughts about like marketing on LinkedIn, which I'm appreciating some of your thoughts today around like, oh,
Yeah.
it's not what you think. But I have all these thoughts
Yeah.
because I've been on there this whole time
Yeah.
and I'm like,
Like selling two offers is like a thing that kind of
because
puts you off.
because how much it feels versus Instagram. Like sometimes
Mhm.
if I post more than once a day on LinkedIn, and you can only really post like,
Mhm.
and you can do little videos too, but it ends up being a post.
Yeah.
Um, you then like I can't talk about it like all day, like I can't, like you can
No.
on Instagram. And
Yeah.
so then I feel it was great for when I started because I'm like, I don't have time for this. Like I have time for a post. But
Yeah.
now I feel like, ah, like if somebody doesn't catch that one post, that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And so is part of it like how like posting too much on LinkedIn or like thinking like if you post too much, it's not going to get seen?
Well, part of that and also just my time, as you know, like
Hmm.
I'm like, I'm not gonna do it if it's not gonna be worth my time.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like
Yeah,
if
you're kind of
I'm,
protecting your energy and your resources.
yeah,
So you're sort of
yeah.
like, when I think about like when how like when animals hibernate for the winter, they're like, I'm not going to give this up. And I think when you're spent and you have a child and you're literally like you have so much, you're just like, is this the best use of my time? Like, is me posting every day on LinkedIn and on Instagram? Like, I wouldn't even
Hmm.
necessarily recommend that. So, but up until now, you haven't had like an active way to invite people offline, correct? Or
Yeah,
have
I think
you?
that's
Okay,
no. I think, well, except when I did my trainings, like when I would do a training or my groups, that
that
was
makes
an
sense.
active thing. But
Yes.
then that also like it wasn't converting and maybe
Hmm.
anyways, it's a whole thing. But I think I'm just I think
Yeah.
it's just that was more my curiosity, like
Yeah.
the support when you have two offers that you're trying
Yeah.
to sell and just figuring out how to
Yeah.
as you're trying to navigate like the stuff around the platforms.
There's a couple of things, and this isn't like the full answer because obviously, when I coach, I ask a lot of questions. So I would say
Yeah.
that at a high level, the way that I would think about this is if you have a one-on-one offer and you have a B2B offer, I would think it depends on your capacity. I would almost see if you post on Instagram as like that's where I would lean more heavily for one-on-one just because of how people shop there versus on LinkedIn. You're going to still sell to orgs, but if you just want to post on LinkedIn, I think you absolutely can sell two offers at once because people know who you're talking to. It isn't
Hmm.
like if you were selling to two very different people. I think like you can sell to orgs and you can sell to individual people. I don't know why there's this thought of like coaches can't sell more than one offer at one time because when you think that literally is not true in any other
Literally
business,
got told that. Literally got told that recently.
it just doesn't make sense because every other business that exists in the world has multiple products and offers, and it makes no sense. The only
Hmm.
reason why they say that is because if you learned a launching business model, it is that we're launching this and we're launching this and we're launching this. But if you have differentiation, you can sell every offer all the time.
Hmm.
Differentiation. It's like if you it would be silly to be like, oh, it's a company that has shampoo and they have face wash and they have this, but they only sell one at a time. I'm like, no, they don't. You just sell them. You just have to position them when people, if you can, if I think sometimes what happens too is like, oh, people will get confused. They get confused when your messaging is not clear because then they don't know, should I buy this offer or that offer? But it's fine, like to have more than one. And you think about even agencies or service providers, they have done for you, they have consulting, and they sell them all the time. They don't have to
Yeah.
launch. It doesn't make sense. So I think sometimes what happens is we have absorbed things and take them as law, but they actually came from the online course industry because the online mass course industry, like the Amy Porterfields and all of that, influenced the coaching industry. And then the coaching industry will repeat things as if they are marketing, and it's not marketing, it's coaching. That coaching regurgitated that from selling courses. But that's not actually the way that people buy. So it's like my favorite thing to talk about because I'm like, that's literally not true. So yeah, you can sell more than one offer at one time. I would just look at like, do the offers need to be more clearly differentiated? And possibly, do you want to have a push period for one versus the other so that you can build momentum on repetition and you don't feel like you have to switch back and forth, not because you can't sell both at once. So
Yeah.
that's what I would say. And then having an invitation for your one-on-ones that is very rooted in where are they, what is their burning question, what are they sitting in, what are they struggling with, and giving them that way at any given point on LinkedIn you don't have to be like, ooh, right now I'm promoting, whatever, because that's you should be able to promote all of them at one time. And if you want to stay on LinkedIn, you can just stay on LinkedIn. You don't have to use IG to market. But I think if you haven't been actively driving people offline, then that I think it's going to resolve itself just through a little bit more like emphasizing that you have this resource. And that converts differently than when we have trainings and webinars, because even me, when I put out a webinar or a training, that person is much warmer and they know you. A brand new person, they may go, but I think about like people are busy. And so even if you put on a training, they might be like, do I want to go to this person's training? Like for them to decide they want to go to your training, that means they've seen enough of your posts that they want to go to your training.
Hmm.
So this is why we need lead magnets are a colder lead strategy, which is why every business owner should have some sort of a lead magnet, because strangers will be like, I don't know you yet, but I want to know I want to know about this. So I think a
Hmm.
big part of it is just giving it the time to start to drive people to email, and then looking at how are you actually selling on email, not doing newsletters. Newsletters do not sell, newsletters inform. And so then looking at that whole thing and like really maximizing the lead magnet to the what's the experience afterwards. So I think it's like a lot of this is going back and taking the bones of what already works and just refining it so that it actually can convert for you. And then you don't have to be like posting on, because you still are posting, but I think it's just so much easier to be like, put the people in the system, and then you can have a tag of this person joined through your one-on-one lead magnet versus your organizational lead magnet. You start to segment your list, which also makes it easier for you to market. So
Yeah, I noticed in your emails this round, you did like you answered questions, answered objections, and like
mhm.
you were sharing new thoughts or new approach or new like ways of looking at things.
Yeah.
Probably you did other things, but those are the three that I noticed.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
I did. I did. And I also didn't have a sales page. So I was like, I need to answer everybody's question before the doors open. That's my job.
mhm.
And I on purpose was like, if I have to choose, I'm not going to choose the feed right now
Yeah,
because I have other
yeah.
places I need to be. And we need to be able to do that, like a little step ladder as business owners. We have to have a hierarchy of where do we show up if we're trying to actively sell right now, or what am I posting if I'm just generating leads for the next thing that I'm going to be launching or whatever. When we don't know that, that's when we burn out because we think, oh my God, I wrote an email. Should I repurpose that email to the feed? Okay, well, I've been posted. I haven't sent any emails. Should I just repurpose my post to emails? And then we feel like we need to be everywhere. So that's also why.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I understand that cycle. And that's why
Yeah.
right now I feel like I haven't done emails in a while because I'm just like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to write. Supposed
Yeah.
to, right? So it's just
Yeah.
like, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yes,
This is
you're welcome.
helpful.
Part of what
I
also will
appreciate
help
it.
too, which I'm folding in a little bit into CO1 too, is like it also gets easier to write emails. Well, too, is like identifying gaps. Because what I've noticed is some of my clients will have that people love their content and love their work, but then people aren't signing up for it. And then I say, okay, well, I'm looking at your content and I don't know how. Like, give me something, bring me into your world, like, start to drop little nuggets about your processes and how you do things differently. You can't explain the whole thing, but it's like it brings this credibility up of like, which is why I've been very forward with my processes this time because I'm like, I got you. Like, we have all of it there. But I think sometimes we're sitting on specificity and we don't realize we're sitting on it because either we don't have it or we just haven't been sharing it. So everybody has their specific gaps. And when I look at everyone's offer, I look at your content too. And I will say for you specifically, I think you need to hone in on your process, or I think you need to hone in here. So sometimes it's a mix of that, and then looking at your messaging, like what part of your messaging is either unclear or hidden, and bringing that to the light.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, because
that's
sometimes I will be honest, I don't know where you said what part of
mhm.
your message and is hidden. I'm like, I have no idea. Like,
Yeah,
so I can, that's helpful. Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
So that's something I definitely look at, and that can change season by season. right? So you've had seasons where you were like doing a certain thing. And so I think like for everybody in CO1, I look at like, I think yours is this because I see it, but this still sounds fluffier. I'm not sure what you mean by this. And so I think just sometimes it's identifying the gaps, but all of the gaps live in your messaging. So we have something called the PSPSR. So it's person, symptoms, problem, solution, result. I think PSPSR. And within that, it's going to bring specificity into your offer. And so sometimes it's just bringing out one of those pieces. And when you have the PSPSR, that's all of your content. That's where we create the lead magnet. The GPTs help you with all of that. So, um, Nicole, are lead magnets still applicable if your clients are executives? I feel like their buying process is different. Is this for like org buying or because Rosa and I like just talked about like having how her clients are also like organizational leaders, but also one-on-one clients. One-on-one, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think every individual client's buying process is a little bit different, but I think that tell me kind of more about what do you think is different about the executives versus anyone else? Because I think about how like they're still looking for something. It's just their burning question might look a little bit different than anyone else, maybe because they're super busy or something like that. So, and feel free, like, if you can't be on camera, just, yeah, they skip steps. I feel like they're quicker buyers. That could be the case too. Um, and I also think of like they could be quicker buyers and like what makes them, and that also could be a certain archetype because they could sometimes like I think of like how executives they're busy, they problem solve quickly, they act quickly, but they we also will have other archetypes who are more like analytical or they're overwhelmed and they're in avoidance. So I think having a lead magnet is also another yes, because I think about how in our marketing we always need to have something that our clients can say yes to that isn't book a call. If the only yes they can give us is book a call, we're leaving a bunch of potential like clients like out there. And so even having a resource that they can say yes to is still a way that they can raise their hands if the yes that they're not ready to give right now is working with you. So, oh yeah, no worries. No, I know this stage. No, that's totally fine. So I would say in short, yes. They may skip steps. That could be a certain archetype, and there may be other ones that you can tap into that aren't as much of the quicker buyers. Not because they aren't quicker buyers, but because busy executives and me, I used to be one, would be so overwhelmed that I just ignore everything. And I keep thinking about it. And what I would have loved is like, please pop up in my inbox and remind me I have this problem, please, because I don't want to go on social media. And so it kind of can help, even if something is working, this strategy can help you tap into different buyer types and then also make it so that you don't have to rely on posting all the time. And I think another thing too is if they're not fully understanding their problem yet, you can show them through the lead magnet. So I feel like the ones that skip steps and buy, they have gone through that process on their own, and that's good. And there's also ones who won't. They'll think the problem is something else. And so like I think in the lead magnet, you also are still establishing that trust through that resource. Yeah. But I know that that person's brain can feel a little bit different. My one-on-ones aren't really on social media. Yeah. And that's another thing too, is that they're not really on social. The thing about lead magnets, when you think about a funnel, I actually want you to think about it like a tree. So we want to bring everybody back to one place because you will have visibility in multiple places. You may be interviewed on a podcast. You might speak somewhere, post on different platforms, go to a networking event, anything. You want to have a home to bring everybody to, and that's also the reason. So, like, if people are finding you on SEO, they're finding you different places. And this is something that, to be honest, you guys, like, I wish I had done earlier on, but I just didn't need to. And the truth is, like, we don't change things in our business until we have to, most of the time, especially if you're overwhelmed. You're just like, hey, if I'm doing fine, like, why would I change it? So you don't need to be like having a hard time or struggling to make the changes, but this is really like just giving everything a different job in a way that aligns with how content's being pushed out. Because I always think of like if the social media platforms have a certain agenda, which is to make money, then how do we use that to our benefit so that we don't have to rely on like actively posting for me, being able to launch and mostly worrying about emails is just, it's like everything to me. Like I'm going through something in my life right now that only the people, closest to me know about. And there's just certain days like where I just am like, hey, it's okay if I don't want to like post on social media. Like I already did the work of introducing people to this concept before. And so it's okay. I can rely on the hard work I've already done to create a list for this, an interest list for this. And I think when we don't have that, it feels so insecure. Like it feels like this insecure attachment to social media of like showing up to social media feels like punching in a time clock at a job, and I hate how that feels. And I think a lot of us can kind of resonate with that, where you feel like, oh my God, I haven't marketed my business. And it's just like, yeah, well, it doesn't have to be all on one platform, It's just giving it different jobs. Um, Other questions, thoughts, takeaways, questions about category of one. I truly, truly have just taken, I've never been more, I'm so clear on that, which is another thing. I was like, I'm gonna try to think of everything for you guys.
Hi,
Uh-huh.
Mariela.
Hi.
I do have a question. I know this, you're trying to aim it a lot towards Instagram, and I'm
Hmm.
very, very green. I that's where I've mostly been posting. I
Hmm.
do want to branch out to other platforms, but would this program be aimed specifically for Instagram?
No, I'm glad you asked. So, I've had clients that, and in the program now, who mostly use LinkedIn.
Okay.
And so the parts that apply to basically the entire program applies to everyone. The part that you wouldn't probably take verbatim would be things like attention content and like virality and things like that. Because if you're on LinkedIn, it doesn't really quite work like that. But because we start with universal things like what are your sellable stories, which you don't have to even have an offer or a clear offer. You generally are clear on your sellable stories before you're clear on anything else. So we start with that, like what's the unmet need that you see? How do you see it and serve it differently because of who you are? And what's your process like? As a result, you just can start to sell that even before you have an offer. Then you get clear on your offer, like what is the actual offer that you are selling that meets this problem. Then you get your messaging, which is how do you talk about it? Who's the person? What are their symptoms? Like, what are they experiencing? What do they think is the solution versus what is really the solution? And what is the process that you take them through? That would be something you would use anywhere.
Yeah.
And the goal of that would be that even if you were at a networking event and someone asks you that dreaded question of like, oh, tell me about what you do, most people like waffle on because they don't know how to talk about it, that you would be able to use very clear, concise language to talk about your work.
Okay. Okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you. Very helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for asking that question. That's a really good question. I do want people to know that messaging, offers, all of that is universal and it'll work across all platforms. Miriam, hi. It's good to see you.
Hello. Oh,
Hello.
get the camera on. Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
Hi.
you're there. Hi.
Good to see you.
You too. I love when I chat with you guys online and then I get to hang out with you guys here.
So I've been incorporating more storytelling into my content,
Hmm.
using trial reels to my advantage right now.
Yeah.
Um, what I've been struggling with is actually because I used to just sell on
Hmm.
Instagram, which dried out my audience. I've also cleaned up my audience. I've removed everyone that is not my ideal.
Okay.
And what I'm still struggling with is showing up in stories. So
Mm.
I'm on TikTok, I'm on LinkedIn a little bit,
Oh wow. You're all over. Okay.
I'm never much. I cannot repurpose on TikTok. My winning format on TikTok is
Hmm.
I'm
Yes.
trying. I'm still trying to figure out what my winning format is for Instagram. But I was built for resilience. And then on LinkedIn is like a different strategy. It's more towards the decision makers.
Yes.
But I do not show up on my Instagram. And I just launched my lead magnet
Hmm.
last week.
Hmm.
And I don't know how to get people onto my lead magnet that is pretty much driving them into my one-on-one offer.
Mm.
Figuring that might be on stories, but I'm never on stories, and I don't even know how to show up on stories.
It's so funny because I would have never, it's so funny how like whatever each of our strengths are, we never think that like other people would have a hard time with it. But I realize a lot of people have that same question. So much so that one of my clients who has made seven figures in her business multiple years in a row asked me this. So just for anybody that's just like, I feel like I don't really know how to use it. So this is universal. I created a training in CO1 on how I use stories, but really stories, because stories are only viewed, like they only show up at the top to your followers, we could pretty much say that they are the closest people to us that are interested in what we have to share, which is why at any given point we probably can talk to our most engaged people there. And it's kind of where everything goes. So in CO1, there's the steps process, like storytelling, thought leadership, education, process, and social proof. All of it goes on stories in addition to random things. Your life, what you think is funny, like all of it goes there. And so if you have a lead magnet, that is a great place to promote it because your most engaged people are there. And the thing about stories is people don't have to watch it. So it's kind of different than a post where it shows up on their feed and they can scroll past it. Stories, every time someone taps, they want to hear what you have to say. So your people are on stories. So I would absolutely post the link there, but not just say download the lead magnet. Like I find different ways of talking about the same thing over and over. So I might be talking about something and then I think, ooh, is there something in the lead magnet that speaks to this? And I'll just tie it to that. So
Okay.
that's what I would do is kind of like, what are 10 different ways that I can talk about this thing that either answers a question that they're sitting in? How could it be a story that you tell and the ending of that story could be book a call? Or I also have this resource for you. You can put more than one, like CTA, but I would promote it. Someone just asked this in Cynthia one. I was like, I can tell you there's like, I don't want to overwhelm you, but I was like, if you have a lead magnet, here's where I would put it. Do
Okay.
you want to hear it? I can tell you, but you were asking me about stories, but it could definitely be, if you want, I can tell you like where else I would promote it, but I for sure would put it on stories.
Like nurture content.
No, just like where I would put it to make sure that all of the eyeballs and attention that you have in different places all funnels into the same place
What do you
so that
mean
they
by
can't escape it.
that? Don't just intrigue me.
So I just answered this question, which is why it's top of mind, and I was like, I'm going to put it in the curriculum. Anytime you ask me a question, I'm like, oh, that's a good question. I want to put that in the curriculum. So stories, send it to your current email list because even though they're already on your email list, you want to invite them to that experience. So then your email subscribers will become leads if you invite them to that. Instagram pinned post, LinkedIn pinned post. You also could put it on your website as a floating banner so that it follows them when they scroll, not a pop-up banner because people close those because they're still trying to read. So I would put it as like the little floaty thingy and then they scroll and it follows them. So that way eyeballs from all places will be funneled to this thing. So that's what I would do. And then talk about it in stories. So that's how you start to.
Okay. I didn't think about the pin post, but that is actually great.
Yeah.
I'll probably do that today as well.
And when you promote it in stories, you also can talk about it like face to cam, but you also could be like, by the way, if you want to learn more about what's in it and what it's going to help you with, share the post. So it just does that job for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love it.
I'm like, we don't have to work harder. I'm like, we're already working hard. We just want to like have something that works for us over and over again.
Yeah, I know
So,
there's room for growth when it comes to me showing up on stories. I am not,
yeah.
yeah.
And I would
I don't
say
know
what's hard when you want to go to show up on stories, what are some of the questions that pop up that you're like unsure about?
I'm like, is this even interesting enough to be like posting on
Mm.
you see, before my business, I didn't have I was one of those people that will log on social media and then deactivate for 6 months and then I'll pop again. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was 6 months. So the business has made me get on social media,
Yep.
and I'm much, much better posting consistently. And I don't post every day. Well, I
Yeah.
technically post every day, but like twice on LinkedIn, three
Yeah.
times on TikTok. Yeah, so I just like do that. But on my stories, sometimes like I'm drinking a cup of coffee, or I'm making something, or I'm walking in my kitchen. Like, is this? And sometimes I literally went to shoot to film some content with a friend today,
Uh-huh.
and she's showing me about this co-working place, which is it was pretty nice actually. And I don't think to like grab my phone and
Yeah.
film. It just doesn't. It just
Yeah.
I have to check myself. It's like, oh, I should probably.
Yeah. So I will say this is just so funny because I'm like, I know that this comes down to beliefs, but I'm telling you, like, people are on social media just to be entertained. Like, if we kind of think about social media as like entertainment, like, yes, they want to learn. You sharing about your day feels like it's maybe like not, but I'm just like, people still want to know no matter what. That's why they watch your stories. And if they want, I always think someone can always swipe and go to the next person. If they're watching, it's because they want to be there. And I think that if the only thing we did on our stories was talk about our offer, people would stop watching. Like,
Mm,
what actually keeps them coming back? I will strategically do this, you guys, because I know people have short attention spans. If I know that I'm going to be talking about my offer, I'm just like, but I'm bored. I'm 3 slides in, that's enough. I'm like, post a funny thing my daughter did, post her art, post the whatever, like something. And then I'm like, pattern interrupt. Okay, like back to my offer. Because that's why people watch stories. It's like a mini reality show of what you're thinking about or doing at any given point. That actually is why people watch them. So I think it also, because I've talked to my clients about this, it makes them feel closer to you, to feel like they went along with you in a moment, in a day. And it's so much easier for people to reply to you. Like, notice even some of you who have replied to me, it's so much easier to respond to people or engage with people when they're talking about normal, everyday things versus like their life. So, what happens is if somebody has messaged you about anything, they're more likely to become a client because they feel like they're not just someone who's following you, they feel like they have a relationship with you. So there's strategically, it also helps the people who are interested in working with you get closer to you.
mm. Okay, I like that.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
there's nothing too simple or whatever. There's a term in Spanish called chismosos or chisme. I'm like, people just want the chisme. They just want to know what you're up to.
No,
So,
I like the cheese man.
yeah.
That's why.
Yeah, and it could be the simplest thing, but you could just post. I literally am like, oh my God, I can't focus at home, so I'm at a coffee shop, and it's like the most basic, non-profound thing, and then people are like, oh my God, me too, and then you just get in a conversation.
I
So I'm
do get,
like, it's
yeah.
strategically, it's just easier for people to respond to you when you're talking about your life and regular things.
Okay.
So
Thank you so
yeah,
much.
you're welcome.
My
Hi,
pleasure.
Dorian. It's good to see you. I don't know if we ever like chatted on here, and I
I
love your
think we
content.
have never met in video, but I feel like I've followed you for so long.
I know, me too, and I love your content too. So it's just like I
You
love meeting. I always feel like I know people that I've followed for years.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like we know each other even though we this
Yeah.
week. But I'm so glad to be here. I'm a little sad that I think I messed up the EST time because I think it
Oh,
changed recently. So I had it in
it
my schedule as like 4 to
did.
5 and it was 3 to 4. So
That's
I couldn't
okay.
hear the first part of the call, but I'm gonna rewatch it.
Yeah,
And
that's okay. And yeah, we just changed our time. Not this Sunday, but the last Sunday. So I was like, I think
yeah.
I've been adjusting to time zones and everything too. So.
Yeah, same. So, but right now, my question is around bilingual pages, and I kind of
Mm-hmm.
wanted to pick your brain on it
Mm-hmm.
because I am naturally bilingual because what I speak about in terms of women's health and naturopathic medicine, I learned it in English, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
Latin and I speak mostly Spanish. So, and I feel like most of my clients are actually Spanish speaking. So I kind of
Mm-hmm.
transitioned to only English, and then I felt like I wasn't connecting, even though it was easy for me to
That
create
makes sense. You
content in
switched to
English.
English for a while and
Yeah.
okay.
Like for a couple of months. I wouldn't say like I consistently did it for like, 3, 4
Yeah.
months, but for a couple of months I switched mostly to English and I felt like I wasn't engaging as much. So then
Yeah.
I try to make it bilingual in terms of what I write is in English. because that's honestly how it comes easier to me. And then when I speak in Spanish with like either Spanish and English subtitles or something along the ways.
Yeah,
But
when
I'm
you're doing
also,
like talking head videos.
yes, like
Mhm.
talking videos, then I've incorporated it in Spanish and I feel like the response is better.
I
But I I constantly overthink it. I constantly am like, does this work? Am I doing the right thing? Should I just make it in Spanish, all of it? Should I just make it in English, all of it? Do people
Mhm.
that actually follow me in English, do they want like do they actually hear me speak in Spanish? It's just like
Yeah.
I don't know if it works or not, and if I'm doing the right thing or not.
So let me ask you a question. This is like a bigger question, but when you think about like the future of your business and like who you want your brand to be for, and again, we don't need to be for everybody, but we think of like we can center a certain audience and still be for other people, but I think it depends. Do you want to center them in the future of your business? What comes to mind when I say that? Like when I say about like centering Spanish speakers versus
Hmm.
speaking in English.
I think it would probably be mostly Spanish speaking, yes.
Hmm.
I do have a couple of one-on-one clients in English,
Yeah.
mostly because then one refers to the other, and I don't know, but I have a couple of English one-on-ones, but
Yeah.
most of them is in Spanish. So I think future-wise, it's probably gonna be more Spanish.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I don't have stats around this. I would just guess that the market that you actually, it's almost like a stronger market if you speak Spanish and you're speaking to the Spanish speaker, because there's obviously Spanish speaking creators, just like there are English speaking creators. But I don't know, but my guess would be that there's more English speaking creators than there are Spanish speaking creators, so that there's actually more of an untapped market if you continue on with growing your audience that way.
yeah,
I will also say I follow people who I don't speak their language, but I will, and I know that if they're speaking, I can't see it, and I think you could put translate, but I will often just hit translate on the post.
yeah,
So I feel like if you think of the people who really resonate with your message, like what do they need to do in order to understand what it is that you're saying? And oftentimes it's just translating the post, and that still like will get
yeah,
across to them.
yeah,
So I think of like how we can absolutely center someone and still have other people like see themselves in our message. It doesn't totally get lost just because of that.
mhm.
Um, or it's like what's an in between where you open with Spanish and then you go into like English. That could be probably too much maybe sometimes, but I think that could also be another avenue of doing both. But I actually just think like now translations are available and people can translate your
Yeah.
post instantly right there.
Sometimes it comes, like at least for me, it comes up directly, like not even, like the creator doesn't even have to put like
They
Spanish
don't.
subtitles, like
Hmm.
Meta directly translated. So, and I
Yeah.
think most of the women that are Spanish speaking, at least around me, they also speak English, but like of
Mm.
course, speaking like when you speak in the same language
Yeah.
out loud, that's why I'm like, I think the
Hmm.
connection is bigger, but I'm just
I
kind of
yeah.
guessing.
I agree because the thing is like it's kind of the way that in my marketing, like I don't just work with daughters of immigrants, but I speak to daughters of immigrants because it's more important for me to have them feel really, really seen more than anybody else. And
Mm.
then know that not all my clients are daughters of immigrants, but they'll still resonate with something that I said around like feeling like they have to work really hard to perform or nothing they ever did was good enough or whatever. But like, I do think that your marketing, I don't think I know, your marketing is more powerful when you have a specific person in mind that you are always centering versus trying to speak to everyone, unless the problem that you're solving is a very big volume problem and you're solving it in a volume type of way. But if the person behind it is a specific person, you're always going to resonate more by speaking to that person, and the outer layer of people who maybe don't fit those demographics or don't fit those psychographics are still going to feel seen in some element of that because there's always overlap.
Mhm.
So if the overlap or maybe the thing is just language, I'm like that's absolutely still going to come across when they hit, translate on the post. And I think that it then does not dilute your message. And I think if you think that you are more powerful and more resonant when you are speaking in Spanish, and then there's certain, just things that they just come across differently. I would rather that you lean into the most potent version of your message and know that that is actually going to probably take you so much further, even with people who don't speak the language. But I think that it'll also help you even to tap into more of the Spanish speaking market.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate
Mhm.
that. Yeah. Need to find, yeah, I think it's leaning into what's the most powerful version of the message, as you said, and then the marketing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, and kind of maybe leaning in more towards Spanish and then doing a couple of either I'm doing more carousels in English.
Mm.
But the other day, one of the carousels had a lot of views that is not common for me. It had like 30K views, and I was like,
Oh,
wow,
wow.
yeah. And I got like, well, I got like around 400 follows from that. So
Oh,
then,
wow. From the
like,
carousel, yeah.
yeah, and like a
Mhm.
thousand people saved it, and I'm like, oh my, this is a lot of people. Then I'm
Carousels
like,
go
really?
viral.
A
Like
lot
I've
of
heard
people.
now if it looks like a storybook where there's just like a title and then there's not a lot of like, and not a lot of text
Yeah.
or thing, they really can go viral.
Yeah, it kind of went, yeah, it was like mini viral, or it was viral. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never experienced that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, yeah, getting so full of the numbers of like, thousands and thousands of people. And I'm like, 400 people is a lot of people to me. Like if they were in front of me, that's a lot of people.
Hmm.
But then I was like, okay, these 400 people, I don't know if they came in for English content, Spanish content, because the carousel was in English. And that's also when I was like,
I
oh,
need
am
to
I
start thinking
getting
about it.
like people who are actually aligned with my ideal
Mhm.
client, or am I speaking too broadly? Because for me, it's easy to write in English around like health topics, let's say.
Around health related topics, yeah. It's almost like for you, it's a variation of, it's not a different ideal client. It's just a different like language where I think about how like you still can have your content primarily in Spanish and know that maybe like 20% of your content is in English, and you kind of almost having a system of being like, when I do speaking videos, they're in Spanish. When I do the captions, they're in Spanish. But if you do carousels, for whatever reason, or you're using certain terminology that's easier for you to say in English, knowing that like that can bring in a different, like that could bring in like English speakers, but they will adapt. I just think people will adapt. I mean, I've seen it. I follow creators who I don't speak their language that they don't even use like letters, like they use different characters, and I will still translate it because I like following them. I just know that if they say something, I don't understand it, but it doesn't matter because you have a whole body of work. So I don't think that it dilutes your entire body of work just because of the language, because now, there's just ways that people can do that. So I
Yeah.
still would say, even if this means 20% of your content is in English, that's enough. That's directly towards them. The other 80 they can translate. And I just think like we follow creators that we are interested in their message, like the resonance matters more than the language.
Okay.
And they can still translate it over, I would say. Because otherwise I think it starts to become like I can see how you would dilute it. And
Yeah.
I just think like now social media too, like it's in their best interest to like make it as easy as possible for us to be able to consume content from different creators. And so it's funny because as you mentioned this, I didn't even think about the fact that I follow like creators who I don't speak their language until you said it. And I was like, oh, what makes me like engage with them? It didn't even, and I
Mhm.
wouldn't even think that they should speak in in English. It's just like I like following them.
Mhm.
So I'm just like, yeah, I just think that your people are still gonna they're still going to resonate with you and follow you regardless.
Thank you. I think that's what I need to keep in mind. I want to be like the people who are, meant to hear my message. They're gonna like me in whichever language, and they're gonna consume it in the way they need to. And I'm just gonna kind of
Absolutely.
maybe focus more on this woman, and then also address them, and also kind of also do what's easy for me. I feel like because
Yeah.
that just yeah, it just makes like creation faster, like
Yeah.
so and stuff.
Yes, that makes sense, especially if you're not asking yourself to live translate. And I'm like, we actually don't really like need to do that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and I'm glad that sometimes we get given evidence of virality or something to kind of make you double down on your strategy. And so then you're like, okay, do I want to keep going? And like at the end of the day, like messaging and resonance always wins, like above anything else is really like what I found. So
Yeah.
wherever you can do this.
Actually, like I really wanted to see more of this class of storytelling because the post that went like kind of viral,
Yeah.
I kind of centered it around my story. It was like around what I was doing,
Hmm.
not like you should do this, but like I did this and this is how I'm supporting my fertility and la la la.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, it's so interesting that just like switching from like you to I,
Hmm.
just like, people are not don't feel like they're told what to do because you just share your
Exactly.
story and your methodology or how you
Yep.
do things. So I'm like, I really need to master the storytelling aspect of things because
I
it works.
even I would even say if you were on purpose gonna do your story more than one way, I that's where I would tell your story. Like make sure that they know your story because the thing is when they know your story and they're bought into your story, it's not to say the rest of the stuff doesn't matter, but they're like sold. I'm sold on this person. So I feel like that, if anything, would be what I would practice, like telling your story in English and Spanish. If you're doing it in like a carousel, just because that's like the entryway to the
Mhm.
rest of your brand.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
But yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So lovely to talk to you.
You too. It was good to meet you here.
Thanks.
Um, any other questions, thoughts, any questions about CO1, about content? Um, would love to be able to support you all, whether it's just taking something that I taught today and being like, what's next for me, or making a decision about joining and being with us for the next 6 months. It's definitely something that I'm going to continue to like evolve the program. Every time someone asks me a question, I always think like, how can I make it better? So it's a program that I built for someone like me who wants to be able to, who needs to be able to make sales consistently, but I also got a lot going on in my life. So we've only had one so far because the one that I just launched was the very first one. So we had 14 people who joined, and then I had my masterminders who also have access to it. So we had 23 in this last round. So I don't think it's going to be, I mean, it depends how this launch goes, but I would say that that's probably around like where it's going to be. Um, but because there's so many different ways of getting coached, like I'm in some cases I'm sitting down and I'm doing reviews on messaging or I'm answering questions in Circle or answering questions on calls. There's so many different ways. But yeah, that's how many. Reclamation is my mastermind, yes. And I give them access because everyone needs help, even people who've been in business a long time, help with messaging and everything. So but yeah, it was about 20, it's 23 this last round, but 14 people who like joined publicly. Any other thoughts or questions? Anything that you're thinking like, especially if you're thinking of, do I want to join? One thing that I will say too is like, it's March right now. By the time this 6 months will go up until like the beginning of October because we start at the beginning of April. And I think like that's already the end of the year. And it can come around so quick, right? That because things are shifting the way that they are now, there's so much opportunity for you to be on the front end of like kind of learning how to shift things versus feeling frustrated because I think about how like it just took me a couple months of like studying this basically to kind of bring it to you guys. But when it started clicking, I really saw the difference and I just feel like I'm just so glad that I didn't wait because I was selling kind of the old way for a really long time. Like I've been in business for a long time and I've never my email list was shrinking because I really wasn't promoting it. And so like I've never in my life had a period of time where like so many people joined my email list or where my account grew like this. It was pretty much flat. Like this it's been wild, but I also feel like my work is making a difference, like it's being received. I'm having more conversations. Like I want this for everybody. So I kind of think about how like where can you be in 6 months if we start this now? Because we have people in the program that have only been in for like 5 weeks, but now we're gonna have more time to actually have me with you, have a place that you can show up. And if you're like, I don't know what to post, every single week you're gonna have brand new things to think about that you can either post from that week or previously. So it just takes as much of the heavy lifting away as possible and you'll start to just think differently about content in general, where it feels more sustainable. So I would love to support you all in the program, or on social. You always can DM me with questions, but is there anything else that you're thinking about that's important to you about creating content or marketing on social? Let me know, or drop your takeaways, just anything that you're like, this is what I'm taking away from today. Let me know.
Mariela, I do want to tell you something. I know I already asked my question, but I want to tell you that as being as green as I am, and I've been in other programs,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like trying to break into the coaching business with an idea, sometimes it gets very overwhelming, not only posting, but even like, what's your next step? And what,
Mm.
like, there's no guideline. Like, all you beautiful ladies have gone through your path, and everybody has gone through it differently
Yeah.
with a lot of takeaway, of course. But I feel like your program, in this sense, I feel like it's almost like a guide. Like,
Yeah.
this is where we should go. And it just feels like not just posting, but even like, how do you want to approach your business? Like, what are your next steps? Like you said, till the end of the year.
Yeah.
I have goals. I just don't know how to get there. So I'm very excited to be able to think of your program as the vehicle that's going to get me there.
I'm glad. I mean, and honestly, here's the thing. I'm glad you actually said this because it made me realize like what I should probably also say is that you won't be left guessing what to do, because it is literally like I am walking you through exactly what to do. So literally when you start here, it is a welcome guide and checklist of what to do. And then we have a workbook, and the workbook says, what do you do on day one? What do you do on weeks 1 to 2? What do you do on week 2? What do you do on week 3? So, like, you're never like, oh my God, there's all of this curriculum. Because I've also been in programs where I'm just like, oh my God, please don't give me like a whole library of curriculum. I'm not going to look at it and I don't even know where to start. So, you know exactly what to do when you start. So it's like you introduce yourself, you put the coaching calls onto your calendar. So it's like I'll tell you exactly where to start. And then you go into, so the curriculum is not long. Like this is literally just everything in here. Then you will just go through 1, 2, 3, and then anything that has an action item, I will say put it into action with the offer and messaging GPT. So like this could be any time you watch the video, immediately put it into action. Because what I find of why people don't use programs is, number one, the program actually was not made for them. They sold it to them and it really was not for someone who was starting out. It absolutely is if you are starting out. Secondly, people don't know what to do when they join. So that's the other thing. They get overwhelmed and they're like, I don't know in what direction. Number three, reason people don't use programs is they know where to start, but they need help implementing. So they're sitting there trying to figure out their offer, answer the question, and then they get in their heads. And then they're like, well, I feel like it's too much for me to ask. And they're not like, the curriculum doesn't guide them well. So I've looked at all of this to be like, there's no way that you will be lost, or I will answer your question, because the GPT is literally trained on what is the curriculum and how do I coach on it. So you have a workshop buddy. And so I really thought about I've been in so many programs, and I always think, what can I do to make sure that you use it, that it benefits you, that you get answers, and that it's easy. So this is how we do it. So like the call schedule's all in here. You add it and you say, okay, the content co-working calls, the different calls, there's the curriculum, there's the weekly content prompts. So this is another thing. I drop in the prompts and I will tell you which of the steps process, the storytelling, thought leadership, education, process, and social proof, it meets. So then I will talk about like, this is a trending one, like to become her, I had to be her first. And if there's like a thing. So this is just different prompts. This is literally like you can fill in the blank. I'll give you different prompts that you can drop in. And once you're clear on your offer, you know how to talk about it. So it's like plug and play, plug and play, plug and play. So I've really, really tried to think of like me being an overwhelmed like person, like how can I how can I help people? This is where you submit your stuff for review. What other questions that
Yeah,
you
no, very good. Thank you so much, Mariela.
You're welcome. Tools and resources. We got all of the GPTs are here, all the things, everything's here. So there's no way that you won't know what to do. And then this is like one of the GPTs here. So it'll just start interviewing you. So you don't need to know how to use it. You don't need to know what to say. It helps you to follow up. I'm going to say standard because it's like in here, but if you haven't used the sellable stories, yeah, one short phrase only. So it'll just interview you. And then that's how you can watch the videos, but get clear on your offer. So well, thank you guys all for joining and just being with me today. Oh yeah, question, Anjali, ask. Let me know.
Hi there. Thanks for this. It was I feel like kind of like a lot of what you were talking about
Mm-hmm.
is formalizing a lot of what I've been doing, but I just didn't necessarily have like a framework around it. Like some of the, I've been telling stories at times and not at other times, and like
Yeah.
I see how you're bringing everything together. Be like, no, you need to, and it also made me realize when I first started my business, like I've been in business for a long time,
Yeah.
like 6, 7, like 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think me telling my story was really what got me selling. Like selling meaning
Mm,
getting people to open their wallets. So anyone who's listening,
yes.
like
Same.
it could not have been more day and night from like me being scared to tell my story and being embarrassed
Yeah.
to then like I was taking a coaching program at the time, and the coach was like, okay, why don't you like start telling your story so that you break down like, people then trust me because I'm a money coach. So there's like an extra
Mm,
layer of like fear and yet like hesitation that people
yeah,
have when it comes to money because there's like money scams out there and whatever.
for sure. And then
Um,
there's a path of like investing when they have thoughts about money and helping the thoughts about money. So it's like I feel like the story matters so much for money coaches.
Yeah, 100%.
Hmm.
And so I told my story for a long time in this like weekly
Yeah.
webinar that I did. I ran ads to it. It was very, very successful.
Yeah.
And then I kind of got tired of telling my story because it is kind of, it's not a struggle bus story, but like there is trauma involved. Having
Mm,
to do with my career as a woman in of color in finance in this boys club, and I just like it gets heavy. Like I'm someone who like, yeah, I'll go through stuff, but I don't want it to be my identity. So to have to
yeah.
keep on telling that story over and over again, like I could go back to that story and
Mm,
probably make like loads of money, but
mhm.
I don't want to. So I don't know if you have any like
Yeah.
suggestions, like, but it is the best story that I have,
Yeah.
I think, but and I've tried telling in different ways, but I just don't love it. So.
What is it about when you tell that story now that you don't like that feels different from back then? If it does.
I don't know, it just like happened. It was like, I was laid off in the 2008 financial crisis. It was just like,
Hmm.
it was like a lifetime ago. I was
That
in my
makes sense.
late 20s. Now I'm in like my
Hmm.
second half of my 40s. It's like how
Hmm.
lo I feel like
Yeah.
I'm like bored by my own story.
Yes, you're a different person, clearly. And you're bored by your own story because you've heard it so many times,
Hmm.
basically.
Yeah.
So I will say, as someone who often tells a story that happened 10 years ago, I mean, and stuff from before, I will also say that us reacting to our own story can for sure feel like, oh my gosh, I've told this, like I'm bored of this story, but like our audience hasn't heard it or it didn't click because they weren't thinking about the thing that we're talking to them about until it hits them. So it's almost like for the people are hearing it for the first time. I will also say too that when we tell our stories, it's not even for us, it's like for them, so they're there. You're so far gone because I think that's the frustration sometimes where you're like, I don't feel that type of way about that. That feels literally like another lifetime ago. So it's like you don't feel that emotional connection to the story because you're so far past it, which it sounds like that's maybe a bit of what's happening. Is like
Oh yeah.
at a time, it was like all you have. Because I think about how at a time, our story is almost all we have when we don't have clarity, when we're so close to it, it feels like, oh my gosh. But once you're so far past it, you lose the emotional connection. But that doesn't mean our audience does. Like our audience still will feel deeply connected to that because what happens is it makes you more, I don't want to say like relatable, but I think what happens over time is like we have to work more actively for our clients who are now 10 steps behind us, let's say, to feel like we get them. It
Mhm.
almost becomes like the curse of the expert of just like, do you really get me? Can I bring my shame to you? Can I bring my thoughts to you? And when you tell your stories, it humanizes you to an era that you actually feel like you're so far past it, which is true. But I think that also can, on the flip side of that, in our marketing, we almost start talking differently when we're so far past it. And our story brings us right back to like that day one that they're sitting in right now.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and the funny thing is, like, I don't know, maybe you can find another story because it's not even directly related to what I sell. It's just
mm,
this idea of being a woman in a male-dominated field
mhm,
that's gone through hardship that a lot of women almost every woman can relate to this.
for
And
sure.
so that's why it was such a powerful story. But
Hmm.
it's not even directly related to investing, which is, I mean, it is in a roundabout way because
Mm,
I wasn't, if I was living to paycheck, I would have never have started my business. That's kind of I invested my money. I had financial means to start a business.
why did
So
you tell that story? I'm curious when you were telling it, what were you trying to show them?
that's a great question. I think at the time when I started telling it, and I think the reason I was able to tell it with so much conviction then that I don't have
Hmm.
anymore is because
Mm,
that was actually holding me back a lot. I felt a lot of shame about that whole um, period of my life because it took
hmm.
me a long time. Like I spent long time like not having a 9 to 5 job before I started my business, and it would yeah, I
Mm,
felt like that was something to be ashamed of. But once
yeah,
I started telling it, the truth will set you free type of thing. But
yeah.
so I think there was that sort of energy of like, I'm not going to be ashamed anymore. And that resonated.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm just thinking like, if I'm not feeling that story, like I can just find there are so I'm very good at storytelling.
Yeah.
Like I'm out in the world, I see stories everywhere. I see stories in
Yeah.
my own life. So like, I don't have to tell that. I can tell like any other story, really.
So what I would say is the most important part is what do I want them to know?
Yeah.
And then what story would I tell to show them that? Because there was a reason you told that story back then. What did you want them to know? And do you still want them to know that? Maybe you've moved on and you don't want them to know that anymore. You want them to know a different thing, but maybe you do still want them to know that same thing, but you can either illustrate it in a different way or the story will have new meaning when you think about the only reason we tell stories is we want them to know something. And then we work backwards from that.
I think I didn't want them to see me as some like boring money coach ex-banker who doesn't understand them because I
Yeah.
think people do put certain people on a pedestal and I was like, you don't put me on
Yeah.
a pedestal.
Yeah. Which is also why we tell stories. Even if it doesn't feel related to our offer, they make
Hmm.
that connection on their own.
Yeah. I'm very much like if I'm not and I like change my like not change my mind, but like I need to be entertained. Like
Mm-hmm.
which I know is like we're business not there to entertain us, but I need to
Yeah.
feel something about this story that I'm telling. And so
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can just find another story because I've had so many ups and downs in between. Like,
Yeah. The thing is you also can tell an abbreviated version of it, whereas maybe there was a time where there was so much depth that you really wanted to go into now. Now it can literally be like a thing that you say, not in passing, but just like I used to talk about that, like being the only woman of color in whatever in like a leadership position, and now I'll just say as a person who did this, and then I'll just kind of skip to something else because it's like that's maybe not necessarily the person that I'm speaking to anymore.
mhm.
um so I do think that, but what I would say is getting clear on like every story you ever told is because you wanted people to know something, and do you is that
Mm.
still something that you want your audience to know? Because when I think about what stories need to be told in the business, it's what do you want them to know or what do you want them to believe? When what do you want them to know, you tell them a story that, and this is why I value this. This is why I don't do this. This is why I, it's just this is why. what do you want them to believe might be challenging a misconception, challenging something that they have where you're like, you think that you need to do this, but you really don't. And then you tell them a story to shift that belief. So I think always starting with what do I want people to know or what do I want people to believe? And you can choose the same story, you could choose a different story, because then I think it's less about you telling that exact story and more about you doing the job that you want your content to do through story, you know? And there's different
Mm.
ways that you could do that. But I would sit with when you told that story and it really resonated and people hired you or paid you or whatever, there's some magic about that that I wouldn't quite like. I would examine why that was because there might be something there that made them feel safe or just made them feel like lowering their guard a bit that we don't necessarily want to let go of. Or we could find a different way of saying that.
Yeah, I that's a really good idea because I tried another slightly different angle to that same story, like from the angle like perspective of my family, like we're a close family and like how it affected them and then how I took their,
Mm-hmm.
watching me struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be something interesting because we're like going
Yeah.
to family therapy now for some of these
Yes.
things.
Yes. Yeah.
It
Which
might
is
be a
why
good
those
time to
are,
like bring that story back through
it
this
is.
new lens.
It is, yeah. And I think a lot of that is like they'll make certain connections just that we don't necessarily need to, but I think always being like, why am I telling this? Is always going to answer because that'll tell you like any job or anything. Really, the only reason why any of us create content is like we want people to know something or we want someone to believe something and then we're either educating them or we're doing whatever. And so that will always be true, but I think that how you talk about it always shifts because you shifts in the same way that like I would talk about certain things from a struggly lens and now I'm like I actually don't feel like that anymore, so I can kind of tell it more neutrally. But I think I'll just share this with you because you've also been in business for a long time is like I remember at the beginning, I would talk about things that I now would look back and judge and be like, oh my gosh, I was talking about that. That wasn't even that profound. Or it was so, I don't know. It's like I almost, in knowing everything that I know, would almost not think that was enough. But it also really, really worked. And I think that when I was there, my audience probably felt like I really understood them and got them, and it felt very I don't know, now it's almost like we become these experts and then we have to work hard to be like, yes, but I also understand them though. So I think like it's like not losing the magic because the magic was there for a reason and you can choose to tell it a different way, but I think like that's one thing is I always would look at why did that work? Because we like again, we don't want to lose that. So,
Yeah, that's a great point. It's a great
yeah.
reminder. Bring that story back, but maybe make it like, I don't know, fresh and a different, like in some way.
A different lens. And maybe you're saying, I want you to know this because I've been here and you maybe aren't telling it from like a perspective of struggling, but that is like that's probably still needed, like in your content in the same way that some stories seem unrelated, but people will people will buy from you just based on that like element of something that you don't think is either relevant or something that you feel like is old and you're kind of over it. So,
Yeah, yeah. I think I'm getting some ideas that like I can like dive into like one aspect of the story deeper
yeah.
in a way that I wasn't before. That's like more interesting and relevant to me now.
That makes sense. Telling the same, yeah, because I think that when we tell it the same way, we're all going to be bored of it. We're like, there's like a different, fresh perspective that present you now has about what you went through or something that you want them to know now. It's just you can always take the same story and bring a different angle.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. It's very
Yeah.
insightful and yeah, I think this is a great program by the way, and I think it's like super reasonably priced for like a 6 month cohort. Do we like sign up like at any point and like
Yes, you can now. You have the link in the chat. So I would, if you're going to sign up, just do it if you can before Wednesday so that you can get the angles because that will allow me to kind of dive deeper into your sellable stories and your thought leadership and extract it out. So the bonus is if you sign up by Wednesday night. But
okay.
the card is open. It's on the sales page, and the link to sign up is in the sales page.
Okay. Great. I am running a sale myself this week. So let's see what happens there. And I was like, oh, somebody just signed up today. I was like, oh, good. It's like almost exactly like what you're
I was gonna say, this is the
like
signs. I'm like,
swapping a
please.
course.
And we've been chatting too, and so I feel like, yes, I obviously would love to work with you and support you, and just be part of these conversations because I think sometimes it's like we just need to be able to talk these things through that we might end up going like this about, and it's like it doesn't have to be that. I don't know about you, but it's like I just need a quick conversation, some thought partnership, be able to say something, and then I'm like, okay, I'm good, and I can run with it. So that's something that, we always can do too,
Yeah,
especially as I get to know you and your offers and all of that.
yeah. No, I think when we first started talking, I was in a kind of like your reclamation. I was in that sort of program.
Hmm.
But at this point, I don't think I need that. I think I need like certain skill sets like this. I can just, because my
Yeah,
Instagram's actually been doing really well. I don't know if this is a thing, but like the past like few months, my Instagram is just like doing really well. I don't really have like as much as a
mhm,
like a framework that you have.
mhm.
I have some sort of loose framework in my head, obviously,
Yeah,
but it's doing really well, and I think because it changes the algorithm, showing me shown to a lot of different like new people,
yeah,
um, and so I kind of want to like use that momentum.
that makes sense. And also
Uh,
even like studying, like I always look at my content and I'm like, what made somebody share this? What made somebody save this? Like what made somebody repost this? Like what is, because it all, it's like it's always giving you data and information. So we definitely can look at like what are the things that that you're noticing are working, and then, kind of infusing intentional experimentation into your content as well. Because that's what we're kind of always doing as business owners. It's like, okay, I'm going to experiment with this and just see like what the uptick is. But it's good that you've already have been noticing it because I'm noticing it too. Now it's like wild how like one post can get so much traction. Like we've had so many people show up and be like, oh my God, this one post like brought a bunch of people to my page, which is why it's a really exciting time to be doing this too.
yeah. One last thing. What was I gonna say? Um, Yeah, I mean, the kind of somewhat frustrating thing is, or maybe it's a beautiful thing, the posts that have taken me literally 30 seconds to put together
Yeah.
and like no thought, like
Yep.
just like unfiltered.
Hmm.
Um, like something happened during the Winter Olympics. I was like screen recording, like not even screen, like recording with my phone like this. And I
Yep.
posted this thing like right after it happened.
Exactly. Was it because it had just finished and then you
Yeah.
talked about it?
Yeah. With
Like brilliant. Those are exactly the things, like talking about it real time. It can be
But
not
now it's
so
been like
well.
3 weeks and that thing is still going.
Yeah.
People are still following me from this thing, even though it's like tangentially related to what I do, and
Yeah.
it has like 150,000 views.
Yep. That's perfect example of what's happening now, where it's like we go on social media because we want to keep up with certain things. So like, yes, do we find people in this process? Yes, we do. But it's like these are streams that are already happening. We're plugging into that. And there's always a lens, and it doesn't always have to be related specifically to your offer, but it's just the way that you think. And that still works. So I love that you shared that because I'm like, I've never heard as much as I have heard in the last probably 6 to 8 months of people having a post that completely takes off. That's why I started to study it, to be like, why did this post go viral and months later people are still talking about it? And then I was like, oh, it's the ones that don't feel like they're related to what you do. It's just about how you think or making people feel seen. And I'm like, oh, this is part of my strategy now. Now I feel like I can see it everywhere. Like there's just some ideas that I'm like, you'll start to see everywhere. You're like, oh, I see how this is something that I can plug into. I can see how this is a conversation that's already happening.
Yeah, no, I'm like already framing because I'm also a business coach, so I'm kind of
Hmm.
formulating like some trainings around some of these things that I'm learning, but like
Yeah.
yours is like a different framework and like you've obviously studied it more, so it's like
Hmm.
there's definitely stuff I can learn from you, and then like tack on to
Yeah.
like what I've already been doing. So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I'm glad that it all like resonated. And for sure, this is definitely more like I would say structured, but you take what you need. But I think that I did that because I was thinking like, how can I create a program that doesn't rely on people coming and just like asking questions on coaching? You absolutely can, but I'm like, everybody knows what to do. just helps people get better results, you know? And this is something I've thought about for a long time, but also thinking of like, how can I teach what I've seen is like working for myself and my clients too? Because I think like we're definitely on a wave right now, you know, and those of us that are even noticing it are like kind of at the beginning of the wave and making those changes. So, and all of the OGs like us, like we have to. Everyone's either adapting or they're gonna have to at a certain point, you know? I think it's fun. I love this. I love the change. So, all right, you guys, I think I chatted with everyone. So if you all have any follow-up questions you didn't get a chance to ask me, or anyone who's listening to the replay, you also can send me a DM on Instagram, and I'm happy to just chat with you about joining anything else that you maybe didn't get a chance to ask today, or if you're listening to the replay, couldn't ask because you couldn't come. So, all right, thank you guys.